Hi, it's Bill Bishop, and I'm the host of Future Biz Pros, where we talk to entrepreneurs that are forward thinking and they're building the future business of their dreams and leading their industries in the use of technology such as artificial intelligence. And today we're going to talk to David Marinac, who is the CEO of ABC Packaging and the founder of the Specialized Packaging Alliance. And so David has an amazing program to help specialized packaging companies use advanced technology like AI and big data to find new customers and make more money in a world that's rapidly changing. So I know you're going to be really interested to hear everything he has to say about how he's using AI in his advisory capacity to specialized packaging companies. So let's get into it. So Dave, thanks for coming today. And I really consider you to be a future biz pro in the packaging industry. And so what I'm interested to hear from you is what's the future of sales and marketing in the packaging industry? Where is it all headed?
In my opinion, Bill, my specialty has always been on unique problem solving packaging, not the commodity brown boxes. And I truly believe that with technology these days, to be able to go against the grain, for example, instead of calling or cold calling or going to trade shows or meeting with people face to face, I believe a lot of that work can be done in advance, meaning with technology and finding out what a company does and the problems they're having with their packaging and the types of packaging that can solve those problems, the more we're able to interact with these companies virtually using AI and technology, not only to find potential customers, but also make matches with companies that truly need these solutions. So it's a much faster, much more efficient, much more effective way to find real decision makers, find real company opportunities, and close more sales.
Okay, so what do packaging companies traditionally do when it comes to sales and marketing? Let's just establish the sort of typical thing first. So what does that look like?
It is sadly, and it's driven me crazy, but they still are doing it the old fashioned way. They've got reps. They may have a website, but the website is just generally a catch all vanilla generic site. We sell packaging, nothing really specialized. And they count on their reps or even packaging distributors, Bill, to make these inroads and explain to companies, oh, we can do this and we can do that. However, the biggest challenge that's happened now is a lot of those old school packaging guys that can solve problems and look and probe and find opportunities, they've either retired or they've left the industry because the majority of people now are quoters, they're order takers. And that's left a huge void out there for companies that need to get their custom or specialized packaging to the right companies and vice versa, and have them find the right manufacturers.
So then the repercussion of just continuing to do the same thing is they're not connecting with the customers they need to, and they're not getting the business they could be getting, essentially.
Without a doubt, the
Yeah.
margins are very tight, and anybody that I've talked with in this space are all dealing with the same thing. Their reps are quoting like crazy, but that's all they're doing. And when you quote and everything is about price, who can be cheaper, who can be cheaper, there's no value there, and there's no long-lasting relationships. And that was my thing that I've continued to look back on my days, early days, and even to now, when we can solve problems and pain points for customers, and if we're able to kind of identify what those are and then find packaging that actually solves that pain or solves those problems, A, we make higher margins. B, we don't have the competition. And again, long term, it's a much easier sale. But the industry has been stuck in their ways going like, geez, if we need to grow sales, we need to hire more sales reps or do something fancy or expensive. And it's really not. It's really just being able to find pain and solve that pain.
Hmm. So that's why you've come up with some of these more advanced, future-oriented solutions. So why don't you tell us about that now? Like, what should a specialized packaging company be doing in sales and marketing now?
My opinion, it's really focusing on something that historically they've never done. Historically, packaging companies have focused on these catch-all. We sell packaging. Now it's almost as if with AI and technology, if we're not focused on unique packaging, something that really paints the picture of solving problems, something different, and being able to really identify that on their website, in their content, and on their information. For example, we call this now because Google is rapidly going it's rapidly losing traction versus AI, Claude, ChatGPT, et cetera. And ChatGPT and AI searches differently. Their search is very specific. Their search is very detailed. And if somebody wants to be able to find a custom type of packaging, they have to describe it in very in-depth ways. It could be video, could be case studies, could be ebooks, could be whatever. But the point is that it's got to identify that there is, there's something more than just we sell packaging. So being able to answer that question to me, it's creating packaging trust signals, number one, which is really in-depth content, but also the other end is sharing it properly, making sure it's getting found into the right people. So making those matches is something that
Hmm.
the industry's just never done.
Yeah, so just unpack a couple of those things.
Sure.
One is that maybe some of our people listening don't realize that more and more search is going to be happening through using an AI, right? So you can go
Right.
on ChatGPT and say, I'm looking for this particular kind of packaging to do this particular thing. And the AI will search for that
Yeah.
and pull
Correct.
up a result, right? So they're
Yep.
not going to be
Correct.
going to Google. They're going to
Right.
be never, so that's the thing. You're saying Google is losing a lot of its search business. I saw a graph that shows that it's tailing off, which is, not great for Google, I guess, but it's showing that people are now searching through an AI, which a lot of people in business don't know. So it's like search engine optimization.
Correct.
Now they're saying calling it search everywhere optimization. You have to be able to be
Right.
found through all
Right.
these different ways, right?
Right.
So it
Right.
requires a different setup. So that's the first thing I think you told me. The
Yep.
second thing I think I'm hearing is that your content that will be searched for has to be more specific, has to be more specialized
Correct.
than just the generic thing that a Google search might find, but an AI will ignore because
Right.
this AI can be much more in depth and find exactly the right thing for somebody. So you got to be available for that to be found. Otherwise, you're not
Right.
going to be found. So
Right.
that's something that everyone in every industry really has to keep in mind.
Right.
But and then the third thing I think you're saying to me, if I can try to regurgitate it, is that therefore these companies that are packaging companies need to embrace the specialties that they have, whereas before they were just saying, no, we just do packaging, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
this
There
idea
was,
of drilling down and saying we have these specialties. You can have more than one, but you have
sure.
specialties and you need to have that data available to be found about that specialty. Would that be
Yeah.
clear what you said?
Yeah, it helps. And what's interesting is historically packaging companies have been paranoid to share things that they're really good at. Almost as if, oh, we don't want to tell Bill that we're really good at this to kind of because he'll knock me off or he'll tell somebody else. And that's really nonsense. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these companies now are facing the slow sales and the low margins, and they're wondering, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And to us, it's focus on those niches, focus on those problem areas, and go that direction because that'll open the door up for a company to sell them anything else that they've got.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, versus this, let's just, try to sell them anything. No, let's try to sell them on on pain solving packaging, and that'll open the door up for everything else.
Right. Okay. So first thing that you've said, which is very interesting, is being able to be found, right, through
Right,
AI and so on.
right.
The second thing I would think is to be more proactive here, not waiting around to be found, but to actually go out and find the customers, right?
That
So
too.
how can
Yeah.
we use this new technology to do that? What's the strategy there?
It's a really good lead in. What we really try to do with our customers is we want to do an interview, almost like what we're doing now, Bill. And we want to talk to them about some of these key things, meaning it's usually at least a 2 hour interview, just a one on one, but we want to know what problems does this packaging solve? What type of customer is it for? Why? What pain? What industries is the target customer in? Because just like you mentioned, when we find that XYZ company has this type of packaging that solves something in the food industry, and it happens to be prolonging the shelf life of meat, for example, well, we can find other companies that meet that profile. And we can use the technology, to your point, to be able to proactively go out and find those companies, find people that are in decision making authority to be able to say, hey, we're working with, Bob's Meat Company over here, so to speak, and they're having a tremendous result. I think you'd probably be interested to find out what they're using. So it's a
Mhm.
much more efficient way to make matches, and almost a B2B matchmaking service, if you will. We're bringing decision makers and the manufacturers together and making those matches for them, instead of the traditional way of having an expensive sales rep drive around and hopefully sell something.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So everything you've been telling me, I'm trying to think of a way to, label that. But it sounds like what it is. It's like a connector hub that's
Right,
driven by AI, right?
right,
So you're saying
right,
on one hand you've got the vendors, the people who make the packaging, and on the other hand you have the buyers, right? And
right,
that's very inefficient right now to bring those people together, especially on a specialized packaging thing because it's very specific, right? So that's why you tend to go for the mass market approach
right.
because that seems more makes more sense. But in this case, the AI thrives in that specialized connections, right? So you're gonna have AI agents that will actually do these connections. Is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, and the beauty of this, to that point too, Bill, is a lot of specialized packaging historically has been regional, meaning, for example, if I'm in the Midwest, my customers seem to be around this area. But the beauty of AI and technology, we can find companies way in other sides of the country and world, for that matter, to be able to find companies that didn't even know that the manufacturer existed. And, the very thing that packaging manufacturers try to do by going to a trade show, we're able to do this in a fraction of the time and make these connections. And that's why we put together this marketplace. We call it a marketplace. It's not a directory, it's not some sort of a yellow pages listing. It's specifically for specialized packaging companies only. And that's the key thing that makes this different. We don't sell paint and labels and all this. We're not Uline. This is bringing together specialized packaging companies, and we want them to clearly articulate one or two key things that they do better than anybody else. And when they do that, that leaves clues. And those clues we use to train our AI agents to go out and find potential customers for that. And when we do that and make those matches, now a company is able to grow sales and grow higher margins with those sales with companies they never heard of before.
So really, what you're saying is, um, if you're a manufacturer of specialized packaging, we're not saying you should fire your sales reps or anything,
No,
but if
no,
you're looking for more help with
correct.
sales, you want to hire an AI agent to do it. You just have to give the AI agent the right things to work with, and that's where you can come in to help get that set up, I would think. And then be on this marketplace where you've done the interview, right? The 2 hour
Yep.
interview.
Yep.
That's gathering
Yep.
all that data, that specific data that then
Right.
the AI can find and look at and say, okay, based on what you've said, here's some customers that we should be approaching.
Yeah, you know what? And just even before you're right, but even before then, when we gather this data, Bill, we're dropping it into and having our AI agents then look at the information we've gathered and actually do a strategic kind of deep dive and find out, okay, if XYZ company is great in this meat space, for example, and we're able to see, well, what other competitors are out there in this space? What do they do? How are they being found? How can we position our specialized packaging marketplace customer who's in our marketplace advantageous or over anybody else that's out there and be able to get them found. And our agents will come back and say, you know, a case study here, a video or two there, this kind of information would be, you know, this will trump everything else that's out there. And that's where I'm so excited about this because it's really untapped. The packaging industry has been so shy to get into this. Everything is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
anybody being able to embrace just having anything that is beyond the generic vanilla we sell packaging is going to benefit from this, and that's what makes this so exciting.
Well, that's why you're on here, because this you're a future biz pro. Like, you're there as a leader in an industry where, it's obviously in every industry, really, a lot of people don't know about these things, but you can help them. So what
Yeah.
does your process look like? Like, if I was a manufacturer of specialized packaging, what
Yeah.
would be the process you would go through to help me? What would that look like?
Thanks. The first things first is we want to do a that 2 hour, at least 2 hour deep dive, and it's not meant to sound like it's painful. This is just you and I, or somebody at your company, discussing in depth a few of these key things. And I'm going to ask you some pointed questions, or one of our team are going to ask you questions. Why is it important, and what problems does it solve, and who does it solve? Go from there. And that process is going to really give us a lot of good starting information and data, to your point. We're going to then drop that in and come out with a strategic report and revisit this with you, Bill, and revisit this. And to be able to then, there's two other components to this. Number one, with that data and strategic report, we're going to give you an assessment of the industry that you want to dominate. And what's it going to take content wise? We call that the packaging trust signals. But what's it going to take in order to really be able to dominate that from a content standpoint, from blogs and posts and videos, or whatever? The other part of that is the next step, which would be a sales piece to this. There's a lot of companies that have their own marketing department, their own sales department, et cetera, but it's being able to make them more efficient. To your point a little bit ago, this isn't about firing your salespeople, it's making them more efficient, more effective. And when we're able to create true opportunities, sales opportunities, where they're not having to cold call and prospect and knock on doors, but they're actually answering and working on projects. That makes a sales team, a sales organization much more effective. But it's not a catch, but here's the thing that I love to do. Before we turn this over, and again, I've done this for a long time, the key thing is to work with a company's sales department. They don't need me to teach them how to sell. That's not the point. The point is they need me to teach them how to sell in this new way of doing things. Meaning, this isn't just let's go quote. This is having these conversations with the client to set the table for our packaging. And when we do that, the margins go from 2% to 20% to 30% because we're now interacting with the client, solving problems. All too often, Bill, sales reps in any area, especially packaging, are in such a hurry to quote, they don't ask questions about the pain point a company is going through. What's this problem costing you? And what is it, what are the repercussions if you don't solve it? right then and there, and a company comes back and says, shit, we could lose our Walmart contract. Well, money isn't that big of an issue at that point. They need this solved. But all too often, and that's really what I like to do, is just make sure there's a bit of a support section there on the sales side of things so they understand this isn't a race. This is to do it long term in a different way that produces much more significant results.
Well, that sounds like incredibly useful and important because, as you and I have discussed in other conversations, um, most people in business are really already falling behind when it comes to AI and how it'll be used. And it's really two things. One is, how do we use AI just to do our jobs better? That's the first thing,
Right.
right? To get a better result with less time and effort and money, right? So that's what we're talking about. But also to say this is going to change every industry, just like the internet changed so many industries, right, on a fundamental level. So
Right.
we gotta be thinking about that as well. Otherwise, we end up like Blockbuster or something, right?
Right.
And so
Yes.
we don't want to end up like that. So what's the first step then? There's like a call, like they'll set up a time with you to what would you talk about in that call? I'm assuming that would be before you do the 2 hours, right? So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
what we call that an assessment call, and that's usually a 15-20 minute. It's just us getting to know each other, us talking about your industry, some of the things that you do and have done in the past, just really kind of answering your questions or the client's questions on the program and what, the different steps, almost like what we're going through here now.
yeah.
But they also come out of their bill with the knowledge that I'm not a marketing guy, I'm a packaging guy. I'm one of them. And yes, with your help and others, we love the marketing piece. We love AI and technology, but at the core, we're marketing people or we're packaging people. And we want that packaging to get sold. So I understand the problems and struggles in this industry, and I think it's really important that we emphasize that I'm on their side. We're trying to get them sales dollars, not leads, not quotes, dollars. And that's really the key thing that I try to,
Mhm.
make sure this is not this is something that whose time is now, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it sounds very entrepreneurial, right? And that's what you're looking for, people who are forward thinking and entrepreneurial and ambitious and realize the world is not going to be the same in the future, right?
Correct. Correct.
So just to wrap up here, a question I
Sure.
like to ask people is the folks that you're speaking to, um, they're going to have one major thing that's going to be their resistance to embracing the future. So, what is that roadblock that they have about the future, and how can you help them get over that roadblock? What would be the key to that?
The roadblock, in my opinion, that they're going to have is that this is counterculture to what the industry's ever done. The industry has always kind of follow the leader, how it's always been done. And we're seeing now at this point that that model is dying. And to get them to understand that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. If they want to keep going to trade shows and they want to keep spending money on travel or whatever, knock yourself out. But this is a much more effective, efficient way to try to go after this. And if you're able to just give this a chance and this is able to bear fruit and close deals, quickly these companies would understand that this is the future. But
Hmm.
all too
Hmm.
often they're so stuck in their ways, Bill, in this industry. And you've heard me several times and you've always talked me down from the ledge, but they're so stuck in their ways. But this is also that tremendous opportunity because of that, we have such a massive chance to really change the industry forever at this point. Just like the internet changed how we did business back then, I see AI as being an even bigger change agent right now to be able to affect and change this industry, frankly, for the next 50 years.
Yeah, well, that's a really good insight. And from all across all the different industries that we've been involved with and talked to people about, um, is what we've realized, that people who are truly future biz pros, and that's who you're looking for, people who embrace the future, is they realize that in this day and age, you don't have to be an early adopter, but you can be an early learner.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is teach them some things that they don't know. And there's no
Right.
risk in learning about this
None.
at all, right?
None.
But also, we realize that, yeah, you're supposed to be early learner, but by learning, you're actually adopting, you say, because the best way to learn is just to start adopting things. And in the world of AI and how things are moving so quickly, it's never going to work to be a follower.
Right.
It's just not going to
Right.
work because the
No.
leaders always win because they get
Right.
ahead and they stay ahead
Stay ahead.
and they get
Yeah.
farther ahead. So if you're
Yeah.
not acting now, you're just your competitors already running ahead in the race and getting faster, and you're going to try and chase them, and you never will. So you need to start now by being an early learner, which is then essentially by being an early adopter. So it sounds amazing. So all people need to do is schedule a time with you for that initial conversation, and they'll
Yep.
be on their way. Sounds
They will, but
amazing.
you know what? It's a great opportunity, and as we go along, I get to learn about them and make some suggestions. And the assessment call is 100% free. We even have the marketplace, and we more than willing to drop somebody's company into the marketplace free of charge. And so there's a lot of those little things. We're trying to help the industry embrace the technology and then give them different steps that they can continue, to your point, to go further and further in this.
Okay, well that's been great, David. You truly are a future biz pro, and we appreciate that. And I can see that there's a bright future for you and all the people that you're gonna be working for. It's going to be
Thanks,
amazing.
Bill.
Working
Yeah,
with
man.
anyway. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming for the interview.